crashing in and reminds me of the past. And sometimes I hear your name. Sometimes I hear your name. It reminds me of the pain. Well, I guess you picked me right, 'cause I am a foolish man. But at least I understand. But at least I understand. And I've learned to live with it.
And hello, everybody.
And hello, everybody. And we're trying a new thing tonight. We're going out on YouTube, Rumble, and Twitch. So,
All at the same time.
all at the same time, yeah. So the
Um,
plan is kind of a little bit of information here on YouTube, and then we'll later on migrate over to Twitch and Rumble, where we are a little less, shall we say, censored.
so, yeah, if we fumble a few things, folks, don't be surprised. Uh, we're virgins at this. How you doing, Gerald? Good to see you.
Hey, Gerald.
Thank you, Cryptomera. So, anyways, the title of the stream, I guess I'd like to touch upon a little bit. Hey, Big D. Good man. Good to see you. I need to after the I need to have a talk with you some point in time, guy. Nothing bad. Just need to talk to you. Uh, yep, E minor, G major, for sure. Um, Title of the stream: nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. A couple days ago, I was watching another YouTuber who has quite the following, hundreds of thousands of people, and he said, "I have a solution to what's going on," and I'm like, kind of intrigued about that, so hung out, listened to what he had to say. His answer or his solution to what's all going on um, was to, as he said, disconnect from society. And I'm thinking to myself, well, in theory, yeah. If you want to go live out in the middle of the woods and hunt for your food and live in a log cabin and have no connection with society, I guess maybe it's possible. Highly improbable in today's age, but the thing is, everybody was like, "Oh yeah, 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 we can do this," thousands of people, and I wonder if they really thought this through. Even if you have your small communities and things like that, there isn't any place that you're going to be able to go and still be able to be totally self-sustainable. It's just not going to happen. How you doing, Georgia? How you doing, Chris? Good to see you. Miss T. Um, so I'm thinking to myself, how is that any kind of a idea of a solution? Um, Obviously, you're not going to you'll be able to manufacture your own tools or your own medications or things like that to any extent to be sustainable in today's society, at least not by a modicum of our level of living standards. Um, but it disturbed me on how many people just jumped on board blindly and thought, hey, that's the next best, greatest thing to sliced bread. and hopefully, choose the heretics. It can be done peacefully and legally, and it looks like there's moves being made to do that. But in the same token, I'm also seeing in other countries where there's moves to proliferate what they're doing. You know, here in the States, a judge ruled that the Biden administration now has to curtail his communications with big tech and the social media platforms about censorship. Now, how much of an effect that has, I don't know. I know the Department of Justice at this point in time is looking for ways that they can do an end run around it, which wouldn't shock me one bit, at least that they'll find some obscure thing or they'll bend a law or something in a way that will, you know, look like they're going to be able to do legally anyway, which there isn't any constitutional reason they should be able to do that. By its very nature, in the United States, it's against the First Amendment. Companies may be able to take and pick and choose what they do, but they cannot do it in collusion with governments. That's a direct violation of our First Amendment rights. Whereas Australia, they're banning about passing laws that will actually fine social media companies if they don't comply with the government censorship, which just absolutely blows my mind. And in Canada, isn't it Bill C-18, Brian?
Yeah. Yeah, Bill C-18. Actually, Twitter said they're basically they won't be posting any Canadian media links in. They won't allow any Canadian links in any the Facebook Meta posts. So our government's all up on arms about that.
Well, are they really though? The side effect of that is if there's any reporting that happens to be negative of the current administration, that's not going to get out either.
Well, yeah, that's true. Our government is. They say they're in negotiations with Google, but as it sits now, they're pulling the government of Canada is pulling all their advertising off of Facebook.
Which, truthfully, what difference is it going to make if they're not showing any of their content?
Yeah.
You know, this is that's a catch-22. And the thing is, they made that mess, and now they want to, try to strong arm back out of it, do whatever. And the only people they got to thank for it is themselves.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, what did they think was going to happen?
Yeah.
Although Twitter not so much, Facebook does quite surprise me. That surprises me a lot.
It's well, Facebook. What the government spends on Facebook for advertising is nothing to Facebook.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm wondering though is there's not been a lot coming out of the European Union about this. But all things considered, with what's going on in France, they might all be kind of shut up. Let's see what happens.
There was just a big thing that went on with the European Union. I didn't get to see too much of it, but I know they had somebody from Canada over there speaking as well. there's been a number of court cases launched. Actually, I think it's $10.5 million lawsuit against CBC for misinformation.
Well, I would certainly love to see that happen.
Yeah. And yeah, there is a bunch of court cases going on, and it's starting here in Canada now, against both the government and media. So those are all good things happening. But that's the bad things that are happening is of course, like the right now the UN and the WHO.
Yeah. Yeah, if people don't understand this, all these groups are all tied at the hip.
They are.
And you're correct, Big Dice. They're just because they're doing that one thing does not mean that what they're doing is going to benefit the average society at large.
Yeah.
And you're very correct about it's not only going to cut out, in Canada's case, MSM, if that ends up being the case, and that's a very big if. But it also is going to cut out independent. And that's why I was pointing out to Brian that if they did that equally across the board, it's not only going to stop what they would want put out, it's also going to stop anybody speaking out against it. So like I said, it becomes a catch-22. That's a double-edged sword. But to roll back what we're talking about, I'm a little concerned that people got this idea from that they're just going to be able to run and hide or live in their little area and do anything, which is truthfully, they'd be more than happy just to have you live in your little area. That's their whole idea by design with the 15-minute cities. There isn't any one particular answer. That's what bothers me a little bit about people getting this idea that they're going to be able to either ignore this and it'll just go away, because it's not going to. The digital currency is already starting to be put in place through the major banks. And now, as dystopian as many other things that we already have going on, I'm informed today by Brian that the airports or the airliners are now moving to facial recognition, or you can't travel. And we know, if you think about what they're doing with the WHO and giving them the ability with their so-called vaccination, what are they calling it now?
Well, there's the amendments to the international health regulations, and then there's the pandemic treaty.
Yeah, which they want to conglomerate into one, which will give the WHO the rights to call. Let's put it this way: if they had the rights that they're looking for, they would have been able to call monkeypox a pandemic and lock everything down again. Yep. And I want everybody to think about this. When they say give them the rights, there is no right to give them. They are unelected bureaucrats funded by this ultra rich and the banking systems through all the countries. they have no inherent sovereignty to any nation and no obligations to any nations. But yet our representatives and our politicians seem to be walking in lockstep with this stuff. The idea that, hey, we can just pass off our country's sovereign rights onto an unelected bunch of bureaucrats. And on top of that, what Brian's talking about, they get to dictate who gets locked up for what, whether you're sick or not, how long, what for. They get to dictate what medications you can have, what medications you cannot have. They get to dictate who manufactures them. They get to dictate how it's distributed and to whom. That's all written in there.
Not get to take, it's have to take.
Well, I'm speaking of the sense of if there's a medication that actually is effective.
Yeah.
Versus something not so effective.
Yeah. Well, I think we really we've seen that in the past 3 years.
Yeah, for sure. But if they'd have had what they wanted to do in the last 3 years, we wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation right now, for sure. And unfortunately, if this isn't stopped, none of our countries are going to be able to have this conversation much sooner than what people think.
Well, it's not only Americans, it's Canadians, it's everybody.
Yeah, it's absolutely everybody. This has been in the works for since 2015, I believe. 2015, 2016, somewhere in there. Which is quite coincidental when you think about all of the things that have happened. Yeah, as they say, coincidence is not causation, but yeah, if it smells like a turd, it's usually a turd. You know. So, I really don't know what I can say to people beyond what I've said before, is that we're not going to sit around a campfire and sing Kumbaya, and this is all just going to go away. And if we all think that somebody else is going to fix this for us, you're very naive. Because as much as you want to wish this away, that's not going to happen. Now, there are some cracks showing up. As I said, there's been some legal precedents set here in the United States that's going to throw a monkey wrench into their stuff. How far that happens and how much effect it has is yet to be seen. We'll see.
Yeah.
It and I don't know what to say to people when it comes to that. I really don't. There's so many different laws and things changing in different countries, but what people need to understand is it's almost like they're all playing by the same playbook, and I know I've said this before.
Yeah.
They're using certain countries with certain cultural differences that they find that it's easier for them to maybe pass certain things there, whereas they'll pass other things in other countries. Unless you're Canada and they just go whole hog, and they're barreling towards a world of, shall we say, the singular rule. Not to step out bounds on the wording I'm using at the moment. Yeah, Gerald, that's a good analogy. Absolutely good analogy. So I don't know what to say to people who are even watching me, other than we need to be much more vigilant. We've got to get more people involved. The silent majority cannot stay silent anymore.
Yeah.
Because the alternative is not an alternative.
Well, I just looked it up today, and in Canada, it's 20.3% of the population work for the government.
And that's insane.
That's absolutely insane.
When the government becomes the predominant employer, yeah, there's some major problems coming.
It becomes a huge problem. Not that it, yeah. So, and well, in Canada, they're offering these all these rebates. There's a grocery rebate. There's a carbon tax rebate. So they bring all this money in. They've hired thousands and thousands of people to get it back, to get some of it back to the people. And as it turns out, they say today there was this grocery rebate that went out, and the wording is up to this amount. Well, as it turns out, there's a lot of people that aren't getting even half of what they said they were going to give out, and it's just which to me is good. I don't qualify for any of the rebates. I don't care. I don't get a GST rebate. I don't get a carbon rebate. I don't get a food rebate. And when I say that,
what does any of those things serve, though, Brian?
What's that?
When they're doing this stuff, what does any of that serve other than create more inflation?
Well, inflation, and it's buying votes from the poor.
Absolutely.
And making the middle class poor.
You know, it astounds me that people would beg for their own change and they don't even see it.
No.
They literally do not see it. You know, and I don't really know, like I said, much more that I could say on that, at least on this platform. That people need to get to understand that what happened in the past 3.5 years with the pandemic has so many far-reaching implications that most people don't realize it, because it's in our economics, it's in our social systems, it's in our judicial systems, it's in our legal systems, it's in our governmental systems. You know, it's almost like in 2019, somebody put something in the water and all of our politicians lost their damn minds. No. That's not to say that a lot of this stuff hasn't been in plan for a very, very long time. Yeah, exactly, Casey. That is exactly correct.
That didn't go too well for Biden, though.
They ain't done with it yet, though. The Department of Justice is still on Biden's thing to try and find a loophole. And truthfully, all things considered, I don't understand why that guy is even in Washington, D.C., or even allowed in the White House.
Yeah.
That, to me, is testament as to how far our government has fell. All things considered, that's come out in the news. I mean, it's just absolutely nuts.
Yeah. They're still trying to find out how the cocaine got into the White House.
Good to see you, Nathan. Nathan says, "Do you know why the masses don't get it or care? It's Bourbon Thursday." Yeah, all I can say, Nathan, is enjoy it while you can. That's
Yeah.
a definite. Yeah, no doubt, Big Dice.
Yeah.
Uh, there's going to be changes coming, whether people think there are or not, that are going to affect the rest of our lives and the rest of humanity.
Yeah.
The people behind this stuff are hell bent for leather to make. They ram through everything that they dictate as to how society should be,
Yeah.
and they aren't stopping. They're actually picking up steam. And the thing is, you can go right to the WEF website and the United Nations website and read it. In some cases, sit there and watch videos where they talk about it. It's not secret.
Yeah.
They lay out everything they have and their plans for the future of humanity. And it doesn't include a discussion with the people who have to live in this society. Yeah, there's just it's overwhelming for a lot of people because it's coming at us from so many sides.
It's coming at us from every direction.
Yeah.
I mean, and not just Canada, not just the U.S., but New Zealand, Australia, and people are of the attitude of, well, if you haven't done anything wrong, why should you be concerned?
Yeah, let me explain that. My reasoning for being banned from YouTube was for nothing more than, well, my strikes were nothing more than telling the truth. My banning was because of my past videos. So they get to change the rules midstream, and you're supposed to predict the future of what their rules are. So that flies in the face of that idea.
Yeah, and if people just keep thinking that way, all of a sudden they're going to find themselves in a situation, and they would say, "Well, I didn't know this was coming. How were we supposed to know?" That's, you know.
Oh, absolutely, Nathan. And so is, it seems like Australia is hell bent for leather on censorship. Um, quite frankly.
Yeah. So is Canada.
Yeah. Well, Canada seems to be the testing ground for everything.
Yeah.
I'm astounded at some of the things that's gotten through there, and people still sit idle.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Jeremy McKenzie. He was he's he's in second in command of Diagolon.
Oh,
The
geez. Yeah, I know.
the leader is a goat's a cocaine
Yeah,
snorting goat.
they managed to
What?
turn a joke into a thing for them to use against society. Absolutely insanity.
Yeah. So, anyways, just yesterday, his girlfriend got a letter from the bank saying they're no longer going to be her banking institution. And and some people are applauding that decision by the bank. And I just don't get it.
Yeah, I don't understand that either, because if they're willing, well, it was very obvious during the convoy that they're willing to shut people's bank accounts off.
Yeah.
But if they shut people's bank accounts off, how are they supposed to function in society, in today's society at all?
That's the thing.
Are employers going to pay them in cash? No, not anymore.
No.
Um,
And that's the thing. I see people talking about barter system, and well, I tell you, that's when I mean, I try to use the barter system as much as possible, but there's a lot of things that you can't use the barter system for. And the moment you try to interact with, you're not going to be able. A lot of things that you can't use the barter system for.
you got an echo a little bit there, Brian.
Yeah. Yeah. It should take care of that.
All right. So, anyways, folks, at this point in time, I think I'm going to throw and drop the link to Twitch, and the Rumble link is pinned at the top. We're going to shut down YouTube here in a couple minutes, so that we can have a discussions that we can't have here, unfortunately, any longer. And for anybody that's on YouTube that wishes to stay on YouTube, I'm sorry. But it's already become relatively apparent that we can't have open, honest. So there's my Twitch channel posted. And as I said, the Rumble channel is posted at the top of the chat. I really hope to see people at least on one of those two platforms, because we're at the point now where we can't talk about the things honestly as we would want to here. Then that's unfortunate. I don't see that changing anytime soon.
No.
So it's unfortunate we've come to this, but if we're to continue to have these discussions, then that's what we have to do. So. Yeah, I'm not sure about that, Big D. Like I said, everybody's going to have to kind of bear with us because this is all new ground for us as well.
Yeah.
You know, we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants at the moment. So
I see Miss T made it to Rumble.
cool.
So
All right, folks, I'm going to be shutting down YouTube, and I hope to see you all over there. Take care, everybody that's staying on YouTube. Talk to you later.